Have you ever felt that weird moment right before you speak? In a meeting or when you try to explain something difficult to your partner, you open your mouth and nothing comes out. There is a gap, and that gap is created by a deep, trained pattern called hesitation. At first, it shows up in ways that feel ordinary, almost forgettable. But if you are anything like me, you don't forget it. Instead, you start judging it. And that is the beginning of a big loss, the loss of confidence. Earlier in my life, I used to hate that gap. I viewed it as a defect. I remember being in conversations and thinking, why am I taking so long? Why can't I just say it? Instead of seeing it as consciousness, I took it as a flaw. And when you believe you have a flaw, you shrink, you look shorter, you feel less authoritative. You start leaking confidence. This drastically affects your character. Because it's been taught us for a long time that conversations reward quickness. Decisions earn praise when they are instant. So over time, your system learned to associate speed with safety and silence with danger. But recently, a quieter recognition began forming beneath those explanations. I realized that the pause carried density, not absence. Usually, when you hesitate, it's not because you are empty. It is because you are full. Clarity often arrives early. Deep down, you know the truth. You sense the direction with surprising precision. But alongside that clarity, other signals hit you simultaneously. The sensitivity to consequence, the awareness of relational impact, the memory of earlier outcomes, the wish to preserve steadiness. Each signal arrived carrying weight, each one sincere in its purpose. The pause emerged because your internal field became crowded, rich with parallel emotions rather than confusion. This recognition shifted how the moment felt inside your body. The pause stopped feeling empty. It felt full, almost pressurized, like standing in shallow water where several currents crossed at once. None of them felt threatening on their own. Together, they created a kind of internal turbulence that resisted immediate direction. The body responded by holding. Breath stayed suspended. Muscles prepared for movement without choosing a direction. The system remained alert, attentive, alive. Hesitation lived here, inside this convergence, as an organization waiting for a sequence. Earlier interpretations framed speed as strength and immediacy as competence. Those ideas entered your system gradually, through observation rather than instruction. Conversations rewarded quickness. Decisions earned praise when delivered without delay. Silence attracted attention that felt uncomfortable. Over time, your system learned to associate movement with safety and pause with exposure. Hesitation therefore carried an emotional charge even while clarity stood present underneath. The charge came from history rather than from the current moment itself. Staying present with this experience allowed something deeper to surface. You began sensing that hesitation appeared most strongly when something mattered. Low stakes moments passed easily. High impact conversations slowed everything down. Leadership moments, visibility moments, moments where alignment and consequence lived close together, activated a wider internal field. More signals woke up because more variables existed. Care expanded perception. Responsibility increased sensitivity. Awareness widened rather than narrowing. The pause grew because your system tracked more layers simultaneously. This understanding shifted how identity felt in these moments. Hesitation stopped signaling incapacity. It began signaling depth. The system demonstrated its ability to perceive nuance, relational tone, timing, and long-term resonance all at once. Awareness functioned at a higher resolution. The pause appeared because the system honored that resolution rather than flattening it into immediate output. What once felt like delay began revealing itself as containment, a holding space where meaning arranged itself before form. As this realization settled, energy inside you changed texture. The urgency to resolve the moment softened slightly. Attention stayed inside the body rather than racing toward performance. Listening deepened because it stopped sharing space with anticipation. Sound entered fully, meaning organized itself quietly. The system began trusting that expression would arrive when internal sequence completed itself. The pause transformed from a place of tension into a place of coherence, forming beneath awareness. The paradox became quietly visible here. The moment you allowed the pause, the less it needed to stretch. The more you stayed with internal movement, the sooner clarity stepped forward without competition. Hesitation carried its own intelligence. It existed to protect sequence, rhythm, and an internal truth rather than to obstruct expression. When this was seen clearly, the pause lost its emotional weight and became a natural phase of internal alignment. By the end of this realization, something inside you stood steadier. Identity felt less tied to speed. Presence carried more authority without effort. The system sensed that nothing required force. Organization happened on its own timeline. Expression followed naturally, like speech arriving after listening finished. The pause belonged here, it always had. And with that recognition, the system continued forward, quieter, more settled, ready for the next layer to reveal itself. As this understanding deepens, something subtle shifts in how time feels inside you. Moments stretch in a different way. The pause before words carries texture, temperature, and direction. Earlier, that pause felt like suspension, as if something blocked forward movement. Now it feels more like incubation. Meaning gathers shape before it meets language. Energy circulates instead of rushing outward. Your system stays awake and receptive, holding multiple layers without collapsing into urgency. The body remains present rather than raced. Breath moves again, softer, slower, as if it recognizes its role in timing rather than escape. This changes how attention behaves. Attention used to scatter across internal signals, trying to monitor each one simultaneously. That scattering created strain. Awareness now rests more centrally, sensing signals as movements passing through rather than demands requiring immediate response. Each signal carries information, yet none of these insist on dominance. Responsibility hums quietly in the background. Sensitivity to impact stays awake. Relational awareness remains intact. Clarity sits among them, calm and patient. The system begins trusting sequence over simultaneity. Identity adjusts here in a way that feels almost physical. You experience yourself less as a responder under pressure and more as a field within which responses emerge. Expression becomes an event that happens through you rather than an action you initiate. This shift removes a layer of self-surveillance that once accompanied speech. Earlier, a part of you listened to yourself while speaking, evaluating tone, speed, and effect. That internal observer gradually relaxes. Speaking begins after listening finishes. Words arrive with less internal commentary. The voice carries weight without effort. As this settles, energy reorganizes. Earlier, energy gathered around anticipation. The system prepared for what might be required, muscles held readiness, thought rehearsed possibilities. That preparation consumed bandwidth. Now energy distributes more evenly. Readiness stays present without tension. The body rests inside alertness rather than hovering at its edge. This state feels sustainable. There is a sense of having room inside yourself, even during moments that carry consequence. The paradox continues threading itself quietly, allowing the pause shortens it. Giving space to internal movement brings clarity forward faster. When sequence unfolds naturally, expression arrives with less delay. Speed emerges as a byproduct of organization rather than force. The system learns this through lived experience rather than belief. Each moment of waiting that holds steady reinforces trust. Each response that arrives cleanly confirms the intelligence of the pause. This learning begins influencing how you relate to other people's timing as well. Silence in conversation stops triggering internal alarms. Gaps feel neutral, even informative. You sense when another person organizes internally. You feel less compelled to fill space. Listening gains depth because attention stays with sound and meaning rather than planning reply. Conversations acquire rhythm. Pauses feel shared rather than awkward. Exchange slows without losing momentum. With this change, authority takes on a different quality. Earlier, authority felt like something you projected or maintained. It required monitoring. Now, authority feels contained rather than expressed. It lives in steadiness. Others sense it through consistency of presence rather than assertion. You notice people waiting after you speak, even when your words remain simple. The system recognizes completion. There is less urge to explain further, less desire to justify. Expression stands on its own. Internally, this creates relief. Carrying multiple signals simultaneously used to feel heavy, as if you held responsibility for every possible outcome at once. Sequence lightens that load. Signals arrive, speak, and quiet down in turn. Nothing gets repressed. Everything gets its moment. The body appreciates this order. Muscles soften, jaw releases, breath deepens naturally. The system experiences safety inside organization. As this pattern repeats across situations, hesitation changes character. It loses its edge. It appears briefly, organizes quickly, then dissolves. What once felt like a stall now feels like a breath between movements. The pause becomes almost invisible to others, though you still sense it internally. Its function remains intact without carrying discomfort. The system trusts itself more deeply because it experiences reliability without forcing speed. Attention also shifts away from outcome. Earlier, awareness leaned forward, tracking how words might land or what response might follow. Now, attention stays closer to origin. Meaning forms fully before release. Once spoken, it feels complete. There is little internal replay afterward. The mind remains quiet. Energy returns inward rather than looping through evaluation. This creates a sense of closure without effort. Over time, this affects how you experience leadership and visibility. Presence feels less performative and more grounded. Showing up carries ease rather than preparation. You speak when something forms rather than when expected. Silence feels like participation rather than absence. Others adjust to this rhythm intuitively. The environment responds to containment. Conversations feel cleaner. Decisions feel aligned without overthinking. The system recognizes something important here. Sensitivity never caused the struggle. Awareness never created the pause. The strain came from forcing simultaneity where sequence wanted to exist. Once this resolves, the system feels whole. Nothing needs removal, nothing needs enhancement. Organization alone changes everything. As this realization integrates, identity stabilizes further. Your experiences as someone who can hold complexity without fragmentation. Multiple truths coexist without collision. Timing becomes an ally. The pause belongs to you rather than working against you. Internal trust deepens through repetition. Each moment reinforces the same learning quietly, steadily. The journey continues forward from here, deeper into how this internal order reshapes presence, energy, and self possession across wider contexts, without effort, without direction, simply through lived alignment unfolding one layer at a time. As this internal order settles more deeply, you begin noticing how little effort it actually requires to maintain it. Earlier, steadiness felt like something you had to uphold through control. Now it feels like a default state that reappears whenever interference drops away. The system remembers itself easily. Presence returns without instruction. The pause remains available, yet it no longer announces itself. It functions quietly, like a background intelligence that arranges movement before it becomes visible. With this, your relationship to internal energy shifts again. Energy stops clustering around anticipation and disperses through the body more evenly. There is warmth in the chest, ease in the abdomen, and a grounded sense of weight through the legs. Thought activity slows without becoming dull. Awareness sharpens while remaining calm. You experience alertness without urgency. The system feels capable rather than prepared. There is a subtle confidence here that carries no narrative. Attention, now less fragmented, begins noticing finer signals. You sense when something inside wants to speak and when it prefers to remain quiet. Both feel valid. Earlier, silence felt like something to overcome. Now, silence carries its own integrity. It communicates restraint, timing, and trust. You realize that expression does not increase your presence. Presence allows expression when it belongs. This reverses an old internal hierarchy. The paradox continues its quiet echo. When you stop reaching for clarity, clarity approaches. When you stop managing timing, timing aligns. This feels counterintuitive only to earlier conditioning. Lived experience confirms it repeatedly. The system learns through repetition rather than reasoning. Each interaction becomes another data point reinforcing the same internal truth. As this integrates, your sense of self becomes less reactive to external pacing. Fast environments no longer pull you out of rhythm. Slow environments no longer make you restless. You carry your timing with you. The pause travels internally rather than appearing as a visible delay. Others experience you as responsive even when you take time. The system holds sequence internally and releases only when it feels complete. This affects emotional tone as well. Earlier, emotion surged quickly when clarity collided with pressure. Now, emotion moves more fluidly. It informs rather than overrides. Feeling states pass through without hijacking expression. You remain aware of them without being compelled to act on them immediately. Emotional intelligence stops feeling like a skill and starts feeling like capacity. When this becomes clear, hesitation stops being something you manage. It becomes something you recognize. Many founders experience this pattern and misinterpret it as hesitation holding them back, when it is actually the system processing more variables than most people ever notice. Learning how to let that internal sequencing complete itself changes how you speak, decide, and lead under pressure. This channel is a space where these internal mechanics are explored through lived experience rather than techniques. If these moments feel familiar inside you, you will find more clarity here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I help people like you by sharing a clear path for transformation. I decode the systems required to master the internal world so external success becomes inevitable.
This is the Pranjal gene, waiting for you to meet your alpha self. Stay consistent. Keep upgrading your internal world. If direction needs adjustment, adjust it with awareness, but keep your grip on the destination. Your alpha self is already waiting for you. Step up now.